Bev's Video Kingdom is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
Bev's Video Kingdom is brought to you by BuyYourWayIntoF1.com. At BuyYourWayIntoF1.com, we specialize in helping drivers get that seat in a coveted Formula One drive just as soon as a multi-million or billion-dollar check is cleared. Let's face it, Formula One is not getting any cheaper, and with today's races taking place in exotic locales such as Abu Dhabi, Singapore, and now Miami, you're going to need to supply a whole lot of cash so your team's private jets and yachts are fully fueled and ready to deliver your car to whatever racecation is up next. At BuyYourWayIntoF1.com, our website is super easy to use. Just type in the amount of funding you or your family will be providing. Be sure to click if this is in millions or billions, and we'll set you up with a team who is in dire need of some cash flow to keep up with the Mercedes and Red Bulls of the world. No silly questions about the ethical burdens of your family fortune. No knowledge needed of how a $15 million F1 car works. Hell, barely any driving experience is required, as long as your team is able to dip deep into mommy and daddy's wallets. Just ask former customers like Pastor Maldonado, Lance Stroll, and former F1 driver Nikita Mazepin. Kids, be sure to ask your parents' permission before signing away their fortunes on BuyYourWayIntoF1.com.
They're stealing their cell phones immediately.
Was one of the guys a pastor? Did you say he was a
Pastor? Pastor Maldonado. Oh, but no, yeah, he was very bad. He was not very good. They're called pay drivers, and they pay their way into F1.
They have this. They have the same thing in golf, where you can pay your way into pretty much anything that you want to do, and embarrass yourself in front of a whole bunch of people. It's fucking great.
Kind of sounds like how I get chicks.
I can grab your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing. Woo!
Hey, everybody out there in BVK land. How y'all doing? This is Brad. I am leading the podcast today, and I am super stoked because a couple things. One, the Formula One season has begun. I grew up in a racing family. I'm a big fan of racing, so it just leads us to the fact that why not tie a movie in with the Formula One season beginning, and we just watched the movie Rush, Ron Howard film from the lovely year of 2013, and I just want to start off by saying I know racing movies sometimes can people just can be kind of turned off to. This movie had a $36 million budget.
Oh wow,
jeez.
Only did 26 million domestic though, and I think that's probably I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But ended up doing 98 million worldwide. So
this was like a Best Picture nomination, right?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
I thought it said it was nominated for Best Picture.
No, I don't believe so. Maybe for some other awards.
Ford versus Ferrari.
That's how good my research is.
Not Best Picture. So, but I mean, we could talk about. I think there was a big snub in this movie. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Rush, we are joined today. Just so you know, one of the regulars could not make it tonight. So Nate is not here, but a threesome. We were thinking about a threesome, and we're like, you know what? We're just used to having a foursome. I mean, we got to pair off a little bit.
Stick with what you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we know, and that's where the action is. So we brought on Scotch Beck, not only to be a part of this podcast, he's also going to make his debut on a draft next Thursday, or this coming Thursday. He's going to be drafting with us as well. So, Scotch Beck, how you doing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Live and in person.
I've been smoking Camels and drinking whiskey to get my voice as close to Nate's, just in case people are,
so deep.
missing. They need that security blanket. So
Yeah.
I'm doing my best.
You're sounding good.
Beautiful.
Sounding good.
Yeah. Also, allergies.
You're giving it all for BVK.
We live in the allergy central right here.
So, gentlemen, this is a movie I saw actually before I really kind of got into Formula One. I saw this movie, and I like racing movies. I like movies that involve racing. So I want to check lots of them out. And this one, I was amazed. I was like, damn, Ron Howard knows how to make a sports movie. I saw that with Cinderella Man, and then we get to this, and I was like, okay, this is a good movie. It's enjoyable. It's an interesting story. And I'm the one who always jumps in immediately, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but just I always want to find out how much of this was real, how much of this wasn't. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, let's get some introductions, boys.
I got a quick question. Question. How long is a Formula One race in 2021? 2022?
A little under 2 hours. They're right around 2 hours. A lot shorter than a NASCAR
That's
race.
what I was going to say, because when they were like, 56 laps or something like that, there's only a couple more laps to go. I was like, these are actually shorter than the NASCAR
They're longer tracks. So these tracks are usually around 3 miles or so.
Oh, wow.
And so they're longer tracks, but they are shorter races.
Is Lewis Hamilton the top guy? Who's the top guy?
Yes, Lewis Hamilton is arguably the greatest race car driver.
And does he race for Ferrari?
No, he races for Mercedes.
Oh, okay.
Mercedes has been the top team. They've won the Constructors Championship, I believe, the last 8 years, something like that.
So Lewis Hamilton's won 8 times?
He's won multiple titles, but he had 5 straight until last year when Max Verstappen controversially took the title in the last race of the season.
And not to be too technical racy, but I know in NASCAR the cars have to be like exactly the same, right? But in this, it seems like there can be some complete differences between the cars.
Money makes a giant difference. And if you saw in the 76 season that this movie's about, they had a car that had 6 wheels. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but they had the car.
I didn't see that. No.
The front wheels were. It was a car that had 2 front wheels that were back to back, or in front of each other, and it was kind of crazy looking.
So you can basically do anything that's within the size limits or something.
They each season they give out a rule book, and then it's up to the teams to figure out how can we make this rule book work out for us the best.
Interesting.
So right now, and this is actually an interesting story, is that right now they're getting ready to bring out new cars. So they have. They went from, I think it was 15-inch tires to now 17 or 13-inch tires to 17-inch tires. So they have like larger tires now on the cars. They did a complete rehaul of the style of car that they're using. And so this season is going to be the teams trying to figure out the new rules for the new car.
And God, I hope that. Oh, well, that's crazy. So you've been driving this certain car your whole career, and all of a sudden you got 17-inch wheels on it, and you're doing all sorts of different shit.
Yes, and they've been doing practicing. It's been kind of chaos. I mean, they're trying to figure out these new cars, and so a whole new set of rules, and it's going to be interesting. That could lead to a pretty wild season. So we shall see.
Is NASCAR like that?
NASCAR, they make adjustments, but I don't think as significant sometimes as they've made in F1. Because F1, it's like they'll have a car for a while, and then they just basically, okay, we're going to have the new rules coming out. The new car will come out. They did it when they changed to hybrid motors, and then now they've gone to because they're sticking with hybrid, but it's like now, like I said, the tires are much larger. It's a very different looking car. But when you look at the body styles on these cars, there's just differences you can see between the teams. It's pretty wild, like just depending on what they think is going to be giving the most speed.
That's cool. I mean, how is that? That's addictive. Like to open up, like if it's not just looking forward to the race car driver that you're like pulling for, but to account for that every year, something new.
He shows up with a brand new car, fucking looking all different.
That's amazing.
Different cigarette logo on the side.
Different cigarette
in his mouth.
Ashtray. Different ashtray.
All right. So real quick around the table, how many of y'all had seen this movie previous? So Nick had seen it.
Yeah.
All right. So Nick says yes, but Scotch and Zach had not.
I would have told you 100% I had never seen this movie. Until about halfway through, and I was like, have I seen this movie? And then my wife comes home from work. She works night shift. She came home this morning and she was like, I watched Rush last night. We already watched that movie. And I was like, we did watch that movie, didn't we? And I was like, I had this feeling about halfway through, like I've seen this movie before.
Oh,
made an impression.
Oh, yeah. Zach. It did not last.
I liked it a lot.
The lung scene didn't get him.
I liked it a lot better this time.
Oh boy. Okay. Scotch.
Had not seen it. I remember wanting to see it. I'm not a huge race fan in general, but after watching this, I mean, it's definitely. So I'm going to watch the Netflix show because I've heard so many great things about it. And then watching this and seeing the technical things with the cars, it was super interesting. The movie was great. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on it, and I made sure that I wanted to give this movie the proper viewing, and I'm fortunate enough to have a big screen, surround sound. So it was like I was in the theater and damn it, that's how you watch this.
Sound design was cool.
Sound was amazing. I mean, just a visual spectacle, all the close-ups on the engine and all that stuff. It was just a really cool experience, and I really enjoyed the whole story and everything. So I loved it.
Very cool. And Nick, this is you're revisiting, but what was your thoughts both first time you saw it and now rewatching?
First time I liked it, and I went into it knowing it was Ron Howard. So when I go into Ron Howard, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be entertained. I'm going to see like a good story. I think an original story. He's great at telling true stories too. I like how he wraps it all up, and they're not all the same. I mean, this could have been, gosh, this is like a combination of Fast and the Furious and oh my gosh,
Warrior.
Oh my gosh, the director of Man on Fire, and that I've referenced him.
Tony Scott,
yes. So it has glimpses of Tony Scott, but then this feels it's a different world universe than Cinderella Man. So he does what he has to do to tell a story that he's selected. And I was into it. I like racing. I don't know anything about the strategy, the rules of racing, other than rubbing is part of it. Part of the rules, and wow,
required.
Not as much in open wheel racing, but yeah.
They're rubbing a little bit. They got some rubs on.
But I love the story. It had been a while since I had seen it, and I didn't remember how it ended. So it had been that long since I did not remember the ending. I really like the actor's name who plays Niki Lauda,
Daniel
Bruhl, and you don't see him in many things. But man, I do like him, and man, what a rivalry. Makes you wish that you were alive back then watching Formula One, because man, to be a part of that experience for an entire season, to see those two go at it. And I did start the Formula One, I did start the documentary just randomly like months ago.
Drive to Survive.
Yes, yeah, and I need to get back to it. I'm ready.
Well, yeah. So the current one that just came out last week it's the season 4. So season 4, which means that it was the recap of last season of F1, and it's it gets into, there's some, if you want to talk about rivalries, and I'll get into this a little bit later. I mean, definitely the rivalry that took place this last F1 season between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, probably a more realistic portrayal of people that hate each other in racing than actually in reality, right. What happened with Niki Lauda and James Hunt.
Right, because they really didn't hate each other as much as it seemed like in this, right? They actually ended up being really good friends. That's something I noticed on the internet, was these guys ended up really respecting each other and actually being pretty close. They even shared an apartment together at one point.
Yeah, so the rivalry was not as heated. I mean, drivers are always going to be competitive with each other. So, I mean, there's going to definitely be some like on-track rivalry and stuff like that. But behind the scenes, it sounds like they were a little bit more buddy-buddy than the movie led on to.
Of course. Well, it's a movie, Hollywood.
At the end of the movie, he even says like he's one of the only people that he really liked or respected or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is a wild thing to say.
Yep. So speaking of the director, Ron Howard, he's directed 2 sports movies, Cinderella Man and Rush. Those are his 2 sports movies. Both of them, in my opinions, are just knockouts. I mean, great movies that really bring you into the story, both based on true stories. Both bring you really into the sport. You're in the car with them, and in the boxing scenes in Cinderella Man, you are right there in the ring. I mean, you're feeling the punches and stuff. So I really dig that. He's a legend in directing, of course, legend in acting. I mean, Ron Howard, just kind of this icon of Hollywood. I mean, going from his young days as an actor into his directing. I mean, Cocoon, Splash, Gung Ho, Willow, Backdraft, Parenthood, Apollo 13, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Da Vinci Code. And recently did Solo, which a lot of people shit on, but I really liked. I actually enjoyed Solo quite a bit as its own little standalone Star Wars movie. I enjoyed it. So I'm a big Star Wars fan, and all you Star Wars haters that hated it, fuck off, because I enjoyed it. So that's my statement to y'all.
Hang on, Brad. I have thoughts on this movie. So unless you, what did you have? I'm sorry. I didn't
Oh no, keep going. No. I was just gonna get into the director and writer a little bit. But
well, let me give my 2 cents really quick. So I didn't think I had seen it, but I had seen it. I was really put off in the beginning that they had Niki Lauda as the voiceover. I didn't.
Well, it starts over the voiceover first is James Hunt, who is Chris Hemsworth.
Was it? Because I remember that mostly it's the German guy, though, right? I mean, mostly the German guy does almost all the voiceover.
The very beginning is James Hunt because he's talking about why women like race car drivers.
Okay, you're right, which is great. But I was kind of put off that I didn't love his accent, and I have no frame of reference in it. But I was just kind of like, okay, I don't know about this guy's accent, and then. You really kind of see the character, and like he has that face that they keep calling the rat face, and like when they show you at the end what the guy really looks like, I was like, this is like great casting. This is amazing casting. But I mean, the beautiful Chris Hemsworth. You got freaking who's the girl in the very beginning?
Natalie Dormer, and like he kind of just like has this rotating cast of women that come in and out of his life. Olivia Wilde shows up.
They really push Olivia Wilde on like the poster and on the IMDb, and she's not in the movie really at all.
Well, none of the women really are. That's what something that kind of confused me at the beginning was it's like here's Natalie Dormer, and he's taking her to the track, and you think, oh, okay, she's gonna be kind of part of this film, and all of a sudden she's
gone.
gone.
She disappears with no ceremony.
Yeah, he's celebrating another race. He's kissing some other chick, and I'm like, wait, what just happened? It was kind of a little bit
on
awkward.
to the next one, like Jay-Z said.
Well, which is I think that was an on purpose story device, right? Because you're just to show the Playboy James Hunt, right?
Right, and the beginning of the movie, actually, there were some pacing issues, and listening to you guys' Hoosiers episode and talking to the director, I have a feeling that certain things were probably cut to speed it up. I mean, this movie's a little over 2 hours long as it is, but like some of the pacing at the beginning, because like it starts off kind of showing, the race where he has the accident starts off, in Germany, and then it says 6 years later. That
6 years before.
6 years, before. Sorry, 6 years before, and then that 6 years seemed really tight. And like the change from Formula 3 to Formula 2, like
the jump from 3 to 1 from 3 to 1, happened.
And it was hard to follow. And being not a fan of the sport, it was a little tough. And I could see why maybe some people wouldn't be into this because it's not as worldwide, as Formula 1 is in Europe and the rest of the world. But after a while, I got into it, and then that didn't bother me. And I watched it again today, and it was totally fine. So, but on the first watch, it was a little bit hard to follow.
Yeah,
but I didn't love Brune in the beginning, and like Brule.
Broom?
I think he called him Broom.
Brunt. But literally like maybe 40 minutes in, I was like, all right, this guy's badass.
Broom's tight.
And I really dug it.
legit.
And he brings it home at the end, and I loved it. It had all of the classic like sports movie elements to it. I mean, right down to, were you guys pretty clear that you were rooting for Hunt the whole movie, or were you like on both sides, or how did you guys feel about it?
It kind of shifted. I feel like the first time it shifted to me, and then you find yourself, like I found myself again. So shifting from Lauda, from
Hunt to
Lauda, and then switching back to Hunt.
Agreed.
At the end.
I wrote it down. It was a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And actually, the beginning, I didn't like either one of them. And I was like, well, who's the hero? Who am I supposed to be rooting for? It was kind of weird. But once you get to know their personality a little bit more, you realize how intense Lauda was and how serious he was. You start to respect that part of it, and you go, okay, this guy's just business. And you start to respect, and you start to root for him.
But
he's consistent. He just stays the same. He's not going to change.
He says
That's
that
respect.
too. Yeah. He's like, my opinion. I'm not even going to say.
Well, I love the conversation when he's driving with the girl, and like when they get in that dude's the Italian dudes, they realize him, and so he gets in the car and drive, and he's like, "Why would I drive fast?" He's like, "I'm not getting paid." He's like, "I'm just this is the way I would drive." And she says, "Because I want you to." And he's like, Okay, check this shit out.
One of my favorite scenes. The look on the guy's faces in the back.
That was Antonio Margaretti and Dominic DeCoco in the back.
That was
both of them. Yeah,
but Dominic DeCoco.
Dude, the best is the look on the girl's face in the front seat when he hits the gas, and she's like got that. It was like better than ScarJo biting her lip for that pasta. I was like, oh, she's excited right now.
Yep.
Well, because that's the thing. He comes across as very like straight-laced business, but it's like, okay, but this is what I'm good at. If you want to see it, okay, let me show you.
Him let his hair down like at the honeymoon, like that was kind of, you get this like glimpse, and then that's where you start to turn, right?
He felt bad about it. He felt bad that he had been having a good time on his honeymoon. He's like up at night staring out the window, like I gotta freaking go back out and race because I gotta beat freaking Chris Hemsworth. Yeah.
Happiness is the enemy.
Which I really liked the Lauda character and the kind of ups and downs paths that you go on with him, and they did less character development with Chris Hemsworth character, other than he's got great abs and he sleeps with a bunch of women, right? But
because they show him a lot of times in the parties like contemplating life, but they don't come around and really give you time to like digest that or show what he's thinking or let him come around. And
he's obviously like sort of troubled, but it never really comes to a head or like does anything for him, really.
Yeah.
But man, they really, when they, he has the character turn when he beats up the reporter, and you're like, oh, he's
such a
guy.
good scene.
I'll talk about that later.
That assault,
like American History X.
Yes, dude. When he puts the recorder in his mouth,
I'm like, oh, this guy is gonna die.
He's like, open your mouth.
Dead.
He's like, bite the talk boy.
This is how
Bite the
this
talk
guy
boy.
dies.
And he fucking punches him. He's like,
speaking to the talk boy first.
Then we'll speed up your
Say
voice.
your first and last name, your age and blood type.
Now, the question was posed to him, and Niki Lauda really like thought it was the most disrespectful thing that's ever happened to him. But the punching out, I don't believe was actually true.
It didn't. I looked that up, and yeah, that
Not
never.
that he's not gonna admit to an assault.
Right. Well,
You know what catch them charges?
that's stepping on a body bag here, but yeah, that was something that the minute I saw it, I go, okay, that would never happen.
That's
Because
how you
he would
know
be
he
suspended,
cares.
he would be arrested. But it's a great part for the film.
It's a story device,
I fucking
exactly.
loved it.
I love it.
And it made me so satisfied, but my bullshit meter instantly went off. But that question did get asked, but not at a press conference. There it was like, I think it was back in Germany somewhere.
Yeah.
Like a interview.
Yeah, it wasn't directly his first race back or anything.
Right. They literally asked that fucking question in real life. How does a person do
That
that?
is so crazy.
The most, actually, that's my body bag. I don't want to say it now. We'll move on. But long story short, I really enjoyed the movie, and I do not enjoy racing. I'm not into racing at all. But man, the hype around Drive to Survive and all that stuff, and everybody telling me how like compelling it is and stuff, it makes me just kind of want to try.
I'm ready.
It out.
Right,
I've never
if you
watched
like watching
a Formula
millionaires
1
and
race.
billionaires like put together just supercars and letting some psychopaths drive them, I mean that's what it's all about.
I mean,
in exotic locales.
I love more than anything watching them run into each other at high speeds in pads. So they're all millionaires and billionaires.
Hey, I got a question, a racing question.
Yes, sir.
Those races in the rain, does that happen?
Dude, there's no way.
So they can postpone if the rain is severe. In fact, it actually happened. So the F1 season, they take a month-long break. And when they came back from their break last year, they had a race in Belgium, one of the best tracks that they race on, Spa. And it was raining hard enough that day that they wanted to go out on wet tires, but they did 2 laps and they realized they can't actually race, and they stopped, and they actually awarded half points, which is not something that happens very often. So they cancel if it's severe rain. Back in those days, maybe when they're a little bit more worried about like the the broadcast rights and things like that, maybe they actually
There was no TiVos.
So there's
and they're a little bit more reckless back then. They're probably going to take a little bit more chances nowadays. I mean, these $15 million cars, they're not going to take too many risks.
Do you know if that
Who
race
cares
in
about the
Japan-
driver, right?
Do you know if that race in Japan was as wet as it shows? Do you know anything much about that race?
I don't know if it was that. I mean, it looked like it was torrential like the entire time.
right.
I don't know if it was that bad.
Okay.
I mean, it was bad enough.
Yeah.
And Lauda did leave
Right.
on lap 2, partially because of the rain and partially because he was actually having some.
So he wasn't his tear ducts were damaged.
Yeah, because
And his-
of the burns that season, his eyes were watering and he couldn't blink his eyes,
Yeah.
and so that was kind of a problem as well.
He couldn't blink because of the surgery?
Yeah, because
tear
of
ducts were watering.
fuck.
His eyes were watering so much.
I was thinking maybe they should have wore some goggles underneath those shields.
That would have fogged up too.
You think so?
The fog
And the
is gonna be
rain.
the biggest issue.
They didn't have
They have
anti-fog?
pull-offs now. I mean, they actually wear they have little plastic strips they put across the thing. So as they're driving, you'll see them just rip off the little pull-offs.
Oh,
So-
and the outer layer just comes off?
yeah, and so they have multiple layers, so they can continually pull off multiple
wow.
layers as they're driving now. So
Seemed like a lot of dying going on. Is there as
this
much
is
dying?
truth. This is back in those days.
But less dying now.
Yes,
I mean, I know you can obviously die in an automobile, obviously, but it seems like there's probably a ton of safety
there was
shit
a
that they
there
have
was a
on
death
it now.
in F2 2 years ago. Last year, not this previous season, but the season before, Roman Grosjean nearly died in a very horrific accident where he basically severed his car in half and went through a fence and was on fire.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was. I was watching the race live and I was like, I mean, I've been around racing a long time. And I was like, scared that we just witnessed like a
Oh.
because it was that bad.
That's creepy.
It's the last episode, the last episode in last season 3 of Drive to Survive. It's wild.
So I think a lot of people's thought about racing in general is that everybody's just waiting for the wreck. But when I talk to people that are really into racing, they're always like really like, oh yeah, it was terrible, and yeah, they're really affected by it. Which is kind of what do you think as someone that comes from a racing family, quote unquote?
My grandpa, when I was a little kid, he got in a very severe wreck.
Oh, because he was racing. What was he racing?
He was racing stock cars in Stockton, Merced, like local stuff.
Okay.
And he in a big collision in Stockton 99 Speedway. He went to the hospital. Was in the hospital for a few days. Like very bad wreck. Like it was like he was in bad shape. So growing up in that type of family, it's like. Of course, the wrecks are interesting, but at the same time, when I see them, it just immediately I'm just in like that mode of like, oh shit, please be okay. Like.
Did your dad race? I know your uncle raced.
No, my uncle raced. My dad did not.
Yeah, your uncle was a good racer.
There's a in the family. It's hilarious now, but there's a picture of when they're getting like my grandpa out of the car. My dad was like part of like his pit crew. And my dad's like over there looking at the car, like, oh shit, this car's all messed up. And like they're like helping my grandpa out, who's like
he's just observing.
Yeah, and he's just like, oh, look at this car.
It is bell bottoms.
So yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that when I see crashes, it's like, I mean, of course, there was a big crash last year with Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. It was at Silverstone. It was a high speed crash, and immediately I was just like. That you can kind of tell when it's like a bad impact or when it's something. Not always, I will say, because when Dale Earnhardt died, we were watching the Daytona 500, and that wreck didn't necessarily look like the type of wreck that would like be devastating.
Yeah, he just kind of ran into the wall. It looked like.
Yeah.
I mean, it was high speed, and he went into the wall very, very hard. But that was before they made a lot of the devices that stabilized the neck and things like that. So I mean, assuming his neck just basically just like broke and snapped when he hit.
On film, it just didn't look that bad. And so
Right.
people are like, oh, okay. And
But
then-
specifically, my question to you is, what do you think about people? Do you think that it's true, the stereotype of NASCAR or racing fans just watching their race, waiting for the wrecks?
I think there's part of that. Yeah, I mean, you go on YouTube, you're going to find a billion videos that are like crash collections.
Crazy crash, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's just human nature. I think people like to see car crashes.
It's just interesting because I agree with you. I think there is that aspect to it, but every time I talk to somebody that's really into racing, they don't like that part of it at all, which is interesting.
Well, it's like people who like hockey that don't necessarily like the fighting. Well, actually, I like the fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
That's
a
not
bad
the same.
example, but yeah, because some people say, I only want to see the fighting in hockey, and it's kind of the same thing with racing, but a little different because it's deadly.
If every eighth guy died
Right.
in hockey, they wouldn't
Right.
like the fighting as much.
Right,
I'm
and
sure.
and that's the thing. That's what's changed is that I mean the amount of deaths that happened in the 70s and like 60s and stuff in auto racing was atrocious compared.
Oh,
to
I mean,
what-
they were saying like 5 or 6 dudes that year.
No, at the beginning, Niki Lauda says 2 will die this year. Like, so he's
Statistically,
that was
yeah.
a little bit exaggerated, but I mean it wasn't too far off.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, it's now. I mean, like I said, there was an F1 driver to Jules Bianchi died, I believe, about 2012 in an F1 crash, and then like I said, a couple of years ago there was an F2 driver that died.
But obviously, they've done some serious revamping of the safety system.
Oh yeah, and when you see crashes nowadays and that people walk away from, both in NASCAR and any type of racing, it's like, how the hell did they survive that?
And I had something written down as far as because they really focused on that relationship between Lauda and his wife. As someone who watches Formula One and NASCAR a lot, do you get a taste or a hint, or do they do like little, how they'll do on Fox and a Full Sunday, they'll do the cover or like a story of a certain player. Do they publicize that relationship between like a wife and a driver and really, dramatize that? This guy's going out there, he could die, and he loves his wife and he's a dad, and these things.
Yeah, and the last season of Drive to Survive, like I said, when Roman Grosjean, I mean, literally drove his car through the middle of a fence, it split in half, and he was on fire. He came out with some severe burns on his hands and his feet. He's sitting there with his wife at the last episode, and he's got the kind of the shit-eating grin. He's like, I'm the man who walked through fire. And his wife just goes like, she gives the biggest eye roll you've ever seen in your life. She's just like, oh my God, like you almost died, you asshole. And but so when he got into he's now in IndyCar, he was racing in IndyCars. She did not want him driving on the super speedways when you're driving the fastest. He doesn't drive those races. He only drives the road races where it's a little bit safer, a little bit lower speeds, not going like 215, 220.
He actually draws the line there and just
they go 220 on those road courses.
No, on the ovals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when you put an IndyCar on an oval, it's
on the turn lefties.
On the
lefty turns.
Yeah, I mean, like Indianapolis, they can get up to. I mean, they're 229 like top speed and stuff. Like it's
so those are the same cars at the Indianapolis 500 that are running the F1 or different?
No, different cars. The F1 cars are like more technologically advanced and more superior as far as speed and everything. Yeah.
All right. Good stuff.
Oh man, there's a scene in the movie where he like gets air and like goes into the air. Would they have a part on the track where you could get air like that?
The Nürburgring, like, yeah, I mean, there's. I don't think they would be getting that much air. I think that was maybe
pretty wild
because
they have a chance if they get too much, they can catch wind.
Oh yeah, dude,
they're done.
Yeah, absolutely. So, couple last things I want to say before we get to Drinking with Director is just Peter Miller is the guy who wrote the script. He also collaborated with Ron Howard on the movie Frost Nixon, which was about Nixon's interviews with Frost back in. He was a BBC, I think, guy. Have not seen that movie. He also wrote Bohemian Rhapsody, and I did see that one of his next movies that he's hopefully getting produced is about the Thrill in Manila. Ooh. Ali Frazier 3, and Ang Lee is set to direct that one.
Oh wow!
So that one's on the looks like it's supposed to become, or I think it's a pre-production, so it's not official yet. But
if Ang Lee's doing it, it's going to look dope.
Yeah, as I'm saying, Thrill in Manila. I mean, that'll be interesting to see, of course, who they cast Ali and Frazier as. But there we go. All right, so Drinking with the Director, we've got Ron Howard, little Ronnie, coming out to drink with us. Boys, what do we got in our glasses going on right now? Scotch, I'm going to start with you because your name is Scotch and you were drinking bourbon.
Right.
But you got a story. He says he walks in, he's got a story about this glass of whiskey that he's drinking.
Yeah, this bottle is called Heaven's Door, and it's actually Bob Dylan's whiskey. It's his bourbon that he developed, and it was given to me literally yesterday by a friend and listener of the pod, Jason Whitehead. He's been on the socials. And he's nice enough to give this to me. And it's really, I'm not a bourbon guy in general. I'm slowly coming around on a lot of things. And it was interesting. We were tasting this last night. We were kind of tasting some other scotches. And we poured it neat, tasted it, really good, balanced flavor, not as overpowering as some other bourbons. The minute we put some ice in it, it just went flat.
Magic?
And it was, no.
Okay.
It just,
really?
And so we're like both looking at each other going, man, this thing just don't put ice in it. And it's really great.
So Bob drinks his neat, huh?
Apparently. So yeah. So I'm drinking Heaven's
And you
Door.
put a warning on the label. Do not add ice.
Right.
All right. What do we got over there, Zach?
I am drinking Sierra Nevada Hazy Little Thing IPA because my supply of BVK IPA was getting slightly limited, so I've tried to branch out a little bit. I'm rationing. I've got a wedding coming up in a couple months that I'd like to give a 4-pack of the BVK to those people. So that leaves me with only like 8 beers left.
Oh damn!
And I mean, I don't know if they still have some down at.
I was there last week, and they still had some in the fridge.
I was there tonight, and there's limited supply, but there are still some cans there. Yep. So, I mean, that kind of brings it up that with Nate not being here, we didn't actually just go to Nate's outdoor studio. We didn't jump in just to his backyard and just take over with him being gone. So we're actually in Zach's garage tonight. So this is a little different location. So
no fire. But
less traffic,
less trains,
Yeah, you don't get the train noise from this part of
less quiotes.
Nikki, what you got?
I'm like you, Bradley. Our sponsors. I'm drinking. Cheers, BVK IPA, delicious. Enjoying every sip.
That was a slippery slip. All right, so BVK IPA. We were drinking out of our little tall cans here that we got. I just brought those straight from Last Call Brewery. So, drinking with the director, we got Ron Howard here. What do you guys want to ask Ron Howard? I mean, this guy's been a legend of acting, Happy Days. He's, I mean, still doing voiceover work for Arrested Development. I mean, just a weird, crazy career that this guy's had, directing some amazing movies, some legendary movies. What do we want to say to this guy?
It's so kudu.
Ron Howard. We got questions. We've got statements. We've got, I don't know. What do we got?
Was this like a family? I've seen some making of movies, and it's pretty unbelievable to see how Ron Howard involves his entire family or brings them all along to a set. Or maybe, I'm sure it's for portions of it, but they definitely have the look of an extremely tight family, and he seems like a pretty unbelievable dad for someone who's been busy in the movie industry his entire life. And so I'd just be curious what the set was like, you know, if he brought his family along, like what that was like. And I would like to see the behind the scenes. I didn't get a chance to watch many footage of behind the scenes.
Well, on that note, I wonder if he was beefing with his brother at the time because Clint didn't get the cameo. Where was the Clint Howard cameo?
Right. He's usually in his movies, and also his dad. And you know, he's one of these guys I like to spot in movies, and it's like, hey, there's Rance Howard, and he's usually in these movies.
Right.
Like, so his dad's in Apollo 13 when they're watching on the TV at the very end. He's like sitting behind the wife and like kind of comforting her and stuff. And so I don't know why I like to find the Rance Howard and things, but
He plays in Westerns too, right?
yeah.
Yeah, the Howard family. That's Bryce Dallas Howard now just killing it, directing all sorts of cool shit, Mandalorian episodes and all sorts of stuff. So it's like this family, man.
She's good too. She's good in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, this is like a charmed family or something.
I mean, The Village, right? I mean, that's the first time I saw
Yep.
her. Didn't know who she was.
So I have something that's not necessarily a question for him, but it's kind of a question for you guys. It's like, is Ron Howard kind of underrated in a way as far as being a big director? It's like you don't really hear him mentioned with the other huge names very often. And he's done some amazing films. He's won a couple Oscars. Well, both of them were Beautiful Mind. Best Picture and Best Director on that one, I believe. And so it just seems like, I wonder is there a thing with him? Because does he not quite get enough respect? Because he's done movies like Splash and Cocoon and some other random projects, and he was doing Arrested Development for a while. Like, I wonder if he's just not quite as respected by some.
It's because he's not cool. Look at him, dude. That's exactly why. He's just not cool looking.
But I feel
enough.
like that is cool, dude.
You think so?
I think it's cool as shit.
I think it's cool as hell to just just to do his damn thing. And like, it's just too bad. But I mean, at the end of this all, I mean, he's going to get the Lifetime Achievement Award. He's already won his Oscars. Like he's good. Like when you see him talk, like he's just seems like an extremely grounded, like happy. He seems like his character from
super nice dude.
from
right?
the old Black and White. I mean, he seems like
from
Andy
original-
Griffith?
Yeah, Andy Griffith show,
Mayberry,
yeah.
yeah.
And then Happy Days, of course, you know.
yeah, he seems like that character. Like that character grew up to become a director.
Yeah, I just, you know, you don't really hear him in the same breath as a Scorsese or Coppola or
even Spielberg or anything.
Yeah, even Spielberg. Because, like, I mean, I was thinking about it. I was like, well, not very many of those directors do like a really serious movie, you know, and then do something kind of silly or whatever. But Spielberg does, and
He's like
got
Spielberg.
all the he's totally like Spielberg.
Yeah.
But
I don't think he's talked about in the same breath, right?
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's just kind of my thought. But if I hear there's a Ron Howard movie, I love most of his movies that I've seen, and I'm a big fan of his. And it's just I think he needs a little bit more.
I'm with you.
And maybe it's like he's kind of considered the pop director, where it's like a little bit more like pop culture movies, where it's going to be a little bit more popular. It's not going to be as artsy.
Commercial. He's not going to be edgy.
Yeah, which I
There's a place.
so many of his
there's
movies
a place for
I
all that.
really like though. Like Scott just said, it's like I mean,
Run through his IMDb again.
going again like so Cocoon, Splash, Gung Ho, and Willow. Both 80s classics. I love both of those movies.
Willow, one of the best movies of all time. We did Willow in the Basement tapes.
We did.
Backdraft was huge.
Backdraft was huge.
Big
I didn't necessarily like it that much. Parenthood is just a crazy, ridiculous movie. I mean, that movie is wild. If you watch it nowadays, it's like, damn, that's like a family kind of PG-13ish movie, but it's very PG-13. Like it's
Backdraft is on the serious. Like it touches on some serious stuff. I mean, Kurt Russell's life is falling apart. All he has is that fire group. I mean, it's a serious
Backdraft's super
movie.
That was one of
serious.
his first like serious like dramas.
Yeah.
You know,
Drama
he's
action
trying to
movie,
break
yeah.
away from the Willows and the Gung Hos and
Yeah.
stuff, and then after that he did Apollo 13, which is one of my all time favorite films.
Unbelievable
That movie is incredible.
Hey, gentlemen,
What's up?
I've never seen Apollo 13.
Hey, Brad.
We're like
Dropping knowledge on y'all.
I've seen Apollo 13, and it's a movie.
I have
These
not
guys are
seen
super
Apollo 13.
excited.
I don't know
about
what
it.
take I
mean,
hate
it's okay.
more.
I don't
Yours-
want to
Which is
hear
funny
it.
because I like, and again, this is typical me. I like Ron Howard. I like Tom Hanks.
Bill
I
Paxton.
like Bill Paxton.
He ain't
Kevin
selling out. He
Bacon.
ain't
I
selling
like-
out and watching no Apollo 13.
I don't
Gary
know why.
Sinise.
Gary Sinise. I like all those folks.
Brad, you'll love the part where they go onto the asteroid and drill into it, and fucking Aerosmith
they drop that
plays.
nuke in there?
It's
You
sick,
go.
dude.
No.
You'll love that part.
You shut your mouth when I'm talking.
But How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Da Vinci Code, and then like I said, Solo, Frost Nixon. I mean, there's just God. It's
Well, you like Beautiful Mind, Apollo 13.
oh, I missed Beautiful Mind. I didn't put that on my list.
So
Yeah,
Beautiful Mind, Apollo 13's a movie, and Willow. I mean, that's just two
Shut
dope
up.
movies right there.
Willow it's in my top 10 of all time.
But you lost me with the Frost Nixon and some of the recent stuff.
You lost them with the good movies.
Well, yeah, his like all 2000, like 2005 kind of on. It's like it's documentaries and stuff. He did a Beatles documentary, did some other things, and it's like so he kind of just said, "I'm going to do some me projects." It sounds like
That's exactly.
I got a
what
hot
it is.
take. Visual effects in Willow are trash. They age like trash. They age
Are you
like
high right
they
now?
age like In-N-Out Burger.
They age like
if you don't
watched
eat it, if you don't eat it within a half hour,
There's
it smells
nothing that
like
ages
trash.
worse.
did they
In-N-Out
age
Burger.
like the Hoosier soundtrack?
But like Heaven's Door bourbon.
like Heaven's Door bourbon
Beautifully?
with ice in it. Dude, no. So
Willow's like if
can
you
we
put
rewind?
ice
Can we
into
rewind?
Scotch's bourbon.
You really think that the special effects in Willow are bad? You're fucking.
Did you watch the same movie that we watched in the basement tape?
I've
But
literally watched
do you
it
consider the
1,000
time, though?
times.
That 80.
I don't
I
even
said it
consider the
ages.
time, Brad.
I said
I
it
don't even
ages.
consider
Zach's
the time.
not considering the time. You are.
I don't
I'm
consider
saying
the time
it
at all.
ages
I think
poorly.
it's great practical effects, dude.
I don't think it's
fucking
that much
amazing.
different than the
That's cool.
the big elephant things in Lord
Let's
of the
keep
Rings.
talking about beautiful. Let's not talk about Beautiful Mind and Apollo 13. Let's talk about the visual effects in Apollo
Hey,
13.
Beautiful Mind was amazing.
I love space. I love history, and how somehow I've just never watched.
So that's my kind of thing with some of these.
Just
Is like
stupid.
I don't typically like true stories. Like that's not really my jam. But I can get down with this racing movie. It almost made it cooler because it was a true story. Because there's a fine line on the true story where the end is sort of fantastical.
Yeah.
But if it's a true story, you're like, okay, well, I guess they got to tell it that way because it's a true story.
Yeah,
right?
and as far as I know, it was fairly accurate. There's some embellishments, of course, but for the most part, I guess they got a standing ovation when they showed it to a bunch of F1
Yes.
people.
like people that knew their shit.
Yeah,
Lauda, he said he was super appreciative. Like he's like he loved the portrayal of himself, and when he saw that everybody loved it, he was like, okay.
But you have
This is a good
to.
one.
I mean, you have to. He had to be nervous, right? Like,
He
if you're a
was,
guy
of
with a facial deformity, and before that, you were kind of like ridiculed for your looks, and like your whole life, you've been kind of dealing with this thing, and then you also have like a sort of off-putting personality on top of it. Like, how are you going to be portrayed in this movie?
well, how do you sit through the whole hospital scene?
Oh,
I mean,
dude, I
how do you
know.
relive that again?
Oh,
Especially
that's wild.
as
I didn't even
vivid
think
as it
about
was.
that fact. That
I mean,
factor.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. It's something else, like thinking about, you're saying, is this embellished or whatever, and it's a true story. And it's like, there was one scene that made me think of when he comes back and there's that moment he's kind of dropping back. He's his first race back.
and he's doing crappy in the beginning.
He's dropping back. And I was just kind of sitting there and I'm like, it's like Seabiscuit. Because he starts coming back, it's like he's in the
Days
back.
of Thunder. Days of Thunder after
Days
his
of
big
Thunder,
wreck.
too.
I mean, Days of Thunder, his big wreck, and then he comes back, and all of a sudden he's like off the throttle,
Right.
and he's getting passed, and then he's like, "Fuck it, let's put it in gear."
So it's like I'm curious, but I don't really want to know. It's like, how accurate was that? Did he really drop back like that? Did they do that to be dramatic, which is a thing that fucking works? Because I love Seabiscuit and I love those movies.
I'm going to assume
wait.
that's dramatization because he said he wanted to get back into racing as fast as he could, and as soon as he gets back in the car, it's going to be back to instinct. It's not going to be like
Nick's fist bumping over here. I'm just curious.
Sorry.
Is that the first ever two guys fist bumping over Seabiscuit?
No,
Yes.
no, I'm not for Nick.
Yes.
I think
no,
Nick's been.
it is. Oh no, it is. I'm
think
getting
it's
hot.
the first time
I'm
in
getting
history.
hot
I found
flashes.
somebody that loves
That two guys
Seabiscuit.
have like fist bumped. Yeah, fucking Seabiscuit, man.
So my question about Seabiscuit is like, was he laying off the
Side
gas
pod,
on
side pod.
Seabiscuit? Seabiscuit, or was he laying back on the gas, or was Seabiscuit gun shy for some reason?
They
was
were
there
making it seem like that was part of their strategy. Like they were kind of they were letting him go eye to eye so he could get the whole like eye of the
Seabiscuit had some
tiger.
bad oats or something.
Well,
Toby was like, fall back, fall back.
Toby, Red Pollard, you know,
Toby.
he was coming back from his leg injury,
Don't
and so
disrespect
it made
Toby.
it seem like his leg was hurting a little bit, and then Biscuit was also coming back. So I think it made it seem like what you know.
Wait. The jockey's leg was hurt, and then the horse pretended that his leg was hurt because
no.
the
Horse was in,
Horse
had
was
gotten
injured
injured
also.
too. Had gotten injured
Before
as well
that.
before.
Did he kick the horse? What happened?
The horse was running a race and it pulled the ligament.
Hey,
What?
for Maverick, the shot wasn't there after Goose died.
The horse
did you-
tore an
It's not
ACL.
there.
Did you
It's
watch
not
the
there.
I've
movie?
never seen the movie. No.
Okay, well then,
No,
yeah,
I've got
stop talking
things.
about
I've got things happening in my life.
right.
I just love
got-
that you and I got Seabiscuit.
it's a
Colin. I'm sorry.
Fucking great movie.
I
Why
might
is
call you
Seabiscuit
and text you
taking
about
over
it.
this pod? What the fuck's going
I'm
on?
gonna
Oh,
text.
I love
I'm gonna
it,
text
dude.
Nick in like a week. I'm gonna be like, "Hey Nick, you want to hang out?" He'll be like, "I'm actually
It's
at
a
Scott's
racing
watching
movie, too.
watching Seabiscuit right
Don't
now."
steal my 1 of 1 in Red Pollard.
Seabiscuit's about to. Oh, the best racer. Did we specify that it has to be a car? Jesus Christ! If it can be a horse
I'm in
rider,
Zach's head.
oh my
Horses
god!
don't have tires.
Oh, chariot racing.
They
Let's
must
go.
have tires.
Sorry for this tangent, everybody.
I'm not.
What else we got to say to Ron Howard before we excuse him to go
love-
make
If he
other
likes, I want to ask him if he
great
likes
movies?
Seabiscuit.
One thing that I love in this movie is when they ask Hunt at the very end, you know, what are you going to do now or whatever, you know? And he's like, well, I'm going to get drunk. And I was like, that is the best answer to that question ever. No Disneyland bullshit. I'm going to get drunk.
So in the interview where he actually he's like, how did you get that much performance out of the car? And he's like, big balls. Legit interview you can watch. Like he
says that?
legitimately said that to a reporter. The reporter started laughing. He's like, what? You can't print that? And then the guy's like, no. He's like, he's like, no, I'm not. I said this to the other guy too. He's like, I'm not trying to like play with you guys. And then he's like, the guy asked the question one more time, and then he kind of gives a little bit more serious. But he actually did say that in an interview.
This was almost my body bag, and I would ask Ron Howard about it. Is Hemsworth too pretty to play Hunt? Because you know what, when they show Hunt, when they show Lauda what he really looks like at the end of the movie, I was like, oh man, that's fucking the greatest casting ever. And then when they show Hunt, I'm like,
You really?
I don't even think he looks like a knockoff Chris Hemsworth, but I mean, I guess he's okay.
He's a good looking
I don't
dude.
know. He's a decent looking dude with blonde hair, flowing
And that's
blonde
a
hair.
I
Hollywood
think maybe
casting.
Hemsworth's haircut was better than his. He had like sort of like, you know how like when dudes have long hair,
We're
and then,
comparing
like,
Chris Hemsworth to anybody is
Yeah.
unfair. Come
You're
on.
absolutely correct. I texted my wife. She said she didn't remember that we had watched Rush either, and she texted me, "How's the movie?" And I said, "Well, the first 5 minutes we get a bunch of naked Chris Hemsworth and some nice shots of his
be right
butt."
there.
And her literal response is the crying, laughing face, and I know what I'm watching tonight. And then she comes home in the morning, and I'm like, "How was your shift?" And she's like, "Oh, I watched Rush." We've totally seen it before, and I was like, "See," so she didn't remember that we had watched it either. So
My wife has gotten into F1. I've got her watching races, so like that's now like family.
what about the kids? The kids like it?
So we're recording before the F1 season has started, but this is going to come out way after the F1 season has started. But the whole family. We've got a F1 fantasy league. We've got more members this year now than we had previously, and we will be watching 8 in the qualifying on Saturday and 8 in the the race on.
Oh, damn! So
Sunday.
you watched the qualifying?
Qualifying is interesting, and it's not like and so in NASCAR they do it one car at a time. Each guy takes their couple laps, and then they're off the track, and the next guy comes. They do it a little bit different. It's a competitive thing. There's three segments. In the first segment, there's all 20 drivers, and they can kind of go out. They have a time. It's like they have 18 minutes to get out there and do as many laps as they want.
Fastest lap.
Their fastest lap counts. At the end of that, five
kinda
guys
tight, actually.
five guys get eliminated, and so then they go to Q2, which is now.
Oh
there's
wait,
only-
so if you don't qualify well, you can't even race in the race.
no. So you're now set for positions 20 through 16.
Oh, okay.
So then the 15 that qualify the fastest, now they go to the second segment of qualifying. They all go out there, they do their laps, they have a little bit shorter time, and now the top 10 get to move on to the next.
So the
segment.
qualifying is like all in all a couple hours also.
It's about an hour and a half, yeah.
Dude,
And
I
so-
like the kind of bite sizeness of it.
Yeah.
Whereas the
Oh,
NASCAR
yeah.
race is so long. you know?
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But NASCAR, the fact that they have in-race commercials where it's like they just go straight to commercial. Now you're watching Applebee's when the race is actually live going on.
But F1, the big thing they talk about is that it's a seamless broadcast. There's no commercials.
I don't know what it is about European sports that they just know how to do it, but like soccer matches.
Same thing with golf, bud. Same thing with golf. The Sky Sports broadcast is 1,000% better than any American broadcast.
100%. I mean, that's the thing. The NASCAR, they'll go to, and here we go, and we got a nice battle going here. Now we're going to go to commercial. Here, watch Applebee's and blah, 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 blah.
All of a sudden, Jake from State Farm is out there.
And they'll come back and they're like, oh, yeah, now so-and-so has passed, and they took the lead, and that's
You're
what
like,
happened while
what?
you were gone.
I missed that?
Which is just stupid. And no, F1 broadcast on ESPN in the United States, 100% shows up the full broadcast. There's no commercials whatsoever. It's awesome.
Love it. Damn.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a big difference. And I know my brother, who we've talked about many times, he's the biggest NASCAR fan, but he cannot stand at all the fact that they have commercials in race.
Is he a bigger NASCAR fan than F1?
So my brother was an F1 fan way before most Americans because he was watching it.
Because he's a Frankie and he's like, I like this because it's different.
Well, he would if there was a 3:00 start time for a race, he would be watching it at 3:00 in the morning. Oh yeah, I got to stay up tonight. I'm watching the F1 race.
That's just fits in your family perfectly.
And he loves it. He's always been a big F1 fan. So he was the first person to ever tell me about Lewis Hamilton, that there's this guy in F1 that's just this psychopath driver that's amazing. So, I mean, he's been my introduction to F1, and that's how I've got into it. So
that's fucking great.
Yeah.
Ron Howard, dude, great job. Great movie.
Thank you,
You did
Ron.
awesome on Willow. Like, you did killer on Willow. The special effects are amazing. My co-host is a dickhead. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
That would be Nick. Definitely not me.
Yeah.
Because I think Zach and I might have just hijacked it into a Willow podcast if we actually had Ron Howard here.
Oh, bro! If he showed up, I'd be like, so what made you think of the throwing the walnut and turning her arm into stone? Because those special effects were amazing.
But it was great.
Amazing.
You should say walnut though.
I'd be like, what made you think of that?
Were those Houston walnuts?
He'll be like, have you seen the movie? Do you know anything about your
Mad
nuts?
Mardigan? I would just say, where'd you get that name, Mad Mardigan? That's such a fucking great name.
Oh, that's a dope name. What was it like knowing fucking
Val
Mad
Kilmer.
Mardigan before he was weird?
Great name.
All right,
Bad special
Ron, have a great evening and keep making some great movies. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Come on the podcast when you're ready. We'll be here for you.
Or when you're not ready.
We'll do Apollo 13.
It's the first time for everything.
Why are we laughing?
Because Brad hasn't even seen it.
Bev's Video Kingdom is brought to you by I Want to Be a Playboy. Have you ever wanted to walk into a restaurant surrounded by an entourage of gorgeous supermodels? Ever want to waltz into the Ferrari showroom, point at a car with each hand and say, I'll take 'em? Have you ever wanted to wake up in a room chock full of beautiful naked people with the scent of whiskey, weed, and love in the air? With maybe just a hint of butthole. If the answer is yes to these questions, keep listening. But first, let me ask you this. Are you a famous race car driver? Do you have a filthy rich family and a healthy trust fund? Do you look like Thor? If you answered no to these questions, and I'm sure you did, then keep listening. Hi, I'm Dr. Dirk Hammerclam, and I'm here to tell you that my new seminar, I Want to Be a Playboy, is the answer to your prayers. In only one short 30-minute session, our experts, or rather sexperts, will give you all the tips and dirty little secrets that will make you exactly the type of sought-after douchebag you've always wanted to be. What, you don't want to be a douche, eh? Take it from me. You want to be a douche. It's fantastic. So sign up today. Just send me 6 easy payments of $69.95, and you'll be drowning in it before you even finish my course. And remember our motto, sex, it's the breakfast of champions.
Nice.
Fucking hammer clam.
The sex little patch they had on his, that was actually
Yeah.
legit.
Dude, that's
Hell yeah.
hilarious.
Thank you, Ron Howard. Always a pleasure to have famous people like that in our studio.
Ronnie H, we call him.
Ronnie, next time we do a Ron Howard movie, you better be here with us, okay? Or on Zoom or on the phone, whatever. Just be here with us. All right, so we are on to Shag, Snag, body bag.
Is it a one-night stand, or do you hit it with a shovel, or take it home to mom and dad? It's like fuck, marry, or kill. It's Shag Snack Body Bag.
Dude, the new bumper is so
Damn.
sick.
God damn, we got the
sweet.
creator of that in here with us in house tonight, Scotch Beck. That is such a beauty little bumper, man.
Oh, thank you very much. No, it was fun. Yeah, I had the idea for the last half, and actually, Zach, I showed him just the last little Shag's name, that little last part. He's like, I think it needs a little more, and so then I kind of workshopped it a little bit. So it was a
Little collab.
Yeah, little collab.
It was a
All right.
98% to 2% collab, and I threw my 2% in there, and Scott was like, I got this.
All I would say is somebody, Jason, I think Jason Whitehead had us up on the socials, and he was like, oh man, that kind of it helps clarify exactly what Shag Snack Body Bag
Which is what we wanted, because
Right.
people
We're
are
like,
like,
yeah.
what is Shag Snack
'Cause
Body Bag?
we're very bad about explaining some of our shit. We're just like, fuck it, we just do it. And if people like it, they don't. If they like it, they do. And if they don't, whatever.
And I'm going to go ahead and throw this out here. If anybody has any other ideas, because I say hit him with the shovel as the kill part of it. And if anybody wants to hit us up on the socials and has another line that's a funny way to kill somebody, not too gnarly or stupid, I'll record that shit.
Ooh.
And
we can
plug
have
it in.
multiple. We can have if
Multiple
you
ones.
want to hear your line
Yeah.
in the BVK podcast on part of the commercial, Scotch Beck is saying right now, just put it on the socials, tell us what it is, and Scotch Beck will make it happen.
One of my favorite ways that somebody tried to kill somebody that I know is this kid we went to school with. They took a guy, they shoved a big chunk of chewing tobacco into his mouth. They duct taped his mouth closed with the tobacco in his mouth. And then this other dude had taken a gnarly shit in one of the public toilets. And they put his head into the toilet and then duct taped around his head. So he was duct taped with his head inches away from the turds, but and could only breathe through his nose, but also had a huge wad of chewing tobacco in his mouth. And this fucking man survived this shit and did not kill the people that did this to him.
Do we need to file a police report? I sound like
The
something
statute of
bad
limitations has run out on this, but I mean, I think, can you work that into
Scott,
the
work
song?
that into three words.
Can you fit that in?
First of all, I was going to say, dude, that's hilarious, bro. But that's too many lyrics. So sorry, man. Jesus
All right,
Christ.
I'll workshop it. Let me think about it.
Oh my lord, this is a true story, possibly.
It's a true story that,
That's
yes.
dark.
Wow. Well,
I'll tell you who did that off the air.
so much for my fun little contest.
I think I heard about that. Stuff.
Oh man.
It's one of the nicer ones we know.
Oh,
It was a different time in the 90s.
yeah. I will say that any type of hazing back in the day was.
It was so crazy.
I mean, it was probably worse back in the 70s, and they were like, "Oh, fuck these 90s because they don't know how to haze." And then we were like doing some shit in the 90s, and then now it's like, nah, you just don't haze.
you don't haze now. And back in the 90s, we were like, you might die, but it's okay because we're making fun of you.
I will say my one of my like it's not that big of a deal hazing stories, but that it actually like this is just kind of just growing up where we were. There was a little thing you could get selected for at school. You could get to go to this Asilmar conference. It was like a leadership conference, and your sophomore year you got selected for it. Then you would go as a junior.
And they picked you and Nate.
Well, no. I got they show up at your house like random night.
Oh.
Or random morning, and they pick you up and they like put you in like a garbage bag, and they like do like silly string in your hair and shaving cream, and they just basically like mess you up, and then you have to go to school that day, however they basically present you. So I got selected for this thing. That year the conference got canceled. And so I had to go through the initiation of it, and then I didn't get to actually do that the next year to anybody else, and didn't even get to go to the conference. So it was like one of those things that was just absolute shit that I had to go through the hazing part of it, but then didn't get to actually participate in the event that we were being hazed for.
That reminds me of my old roommate telling us a story about this guy that he went to high school with. I told the story on the pod, I think, where he was going to ask this girl to prom, and they pull up in a van. They grab her off the street, pull her into the van,
Yes.
put a bag over her head, tell her, "We're gonna fucking kill you. Shut the fuck up." She like pees herself and freaking absolutely loses her mind. And then he pulls the bag off like 20 minutes later and is like, "Well, you go to prom with me?" And she's like, "No, you fucking psycho."
You're going to prison, dude.
Yeah, dude.
That's assault,
She
brother.
thought she got fucking kidnapped.
I saw some
And they were like, "I don't know why she's being such a bitch about it."
that's terrible
That's
shit.
the worst shit ever, right? That's a true story.
horrible. That is horrible.
That girl's traumatized for her whole life because these guys were like, "This will be the great way to ask her to prom."
Oh, jeez. All right. Well, we are on. On that note, we're on Shag
We can
Snag
cut
Body
that
Bag.
out.
We're going to. I don't know which story of yours I'm supposed to cut out.
Let's cut both of them. Jesus.
All right. So Shag Snag Body Bag. What are we shagging here? Let's start with Nick. What's your shag from this movie Rush?
Damn.
You don't have one?
I have a couple. Yeah. No, I mean, I got like 2 or 3. I got 2 written down. I don't know if I'm going to go with either one of them.
I'm ready. You want to call on me?
All right.
Call on Zach.
How you doing, Zach?
Okay. I've got another story about hazing. No. So my shag in this is all the talk about Drive to Survive, right? So Drive to Survive on Netflix is the F1 show that kind of goes into the background of all of these guys that are driving on this circuit, and you kind of bring the human element, like Nick was talking about. You know, this guy's a dad, this guy's a husband, a boyfriend, or whatever it is, and he's going out risking his life and he's doing all these things, and which is super cool. So my sport personally is golf. I fucking love golf. I watch golf all the time. And
Is there a Drive to Survive for golf?
so they're coming out with it. So the same producers that did Drive to Survive, they were just on No Laying Up podcast, which is another podcast I listen to. Shout out No Laying Up. And they were talking about, they had the producers from Drive to Survive on there, and they're producing a new show that's going to be basically what Drive to Survive is for a PGA Tour.
Like Chip
They're
to be
gonna-
hip?
They're going to talk to, yeah, exactly. They're going to.
No, they're going to call it Drive to Survive as well. They're like, fuck it. What is it called? Drive to Survive too.
We'll call it Chip to be hip. But yeah, no. So it's gonna be like Drive to Survive, but it's gonna be about the PGA Tour. It's gonna
Putt
have
in
a
the
bunch
butt.
of guys that are trying to get on putt in the butt. That might
That's what
be-
I said.
That's perfect.
Chip to be hip is way better.
No, putt in the butt is really
That could be
good.
like season 2.
They're like today's sponsor for our fucking sphincter show. What's our sphincter show called?
Top sphincter.
Top sphincter.
Sphincter.
For top sphincter is going to be putt in the butt. But anyways,
Zach, let me real quick warn you on that though, because you're a fan of golfing, so you know the
know.
golfers already and you follow it. As a fan of Formula One, when you watch Drive to Survive, you realize that they really play very fast and loose with a lot of facts, with a lot of it's some editing that is just absurd. That
It's a reality show.
that there'll be something happening and they'll have a clip of a radio comment that has nothing to do with that actual event, and it's just like, holy fuck,
they're
just
creating drama.
they're creating drama left and right.
Well, let me tell you something about
Oh, it's bad.
F1 has a lot of drama built into it because of the bodily harm that, and these guys are putting themselves in the way of injury or whatever it is. Golf doesn't have that, so we could use a little bit of drama. I'm telling you, let's throw some fucking some manufactured
it's gonna
drama.
be
in
it's
there.
gonna be like this. It'll be like, so that hole in one that happened on the 17th at Arizona just not too long ago, where they threw all that shit on the thing.
Yes.
They'll be like, and then danger erupted. Fans began throwing full bottles of water onto the green.
People were scared for their lives.
And they'll be, that's the way they're going to announce it. And it'll be like, people were fearing for their lives. They're going to show like one guy like having a weird look on his face. It'll be like, oh shit, they were all scared. Like this was chaos.
This is exactly what golf needs, and I'm excited. We need some danger, and I'm in. I can't wait for it. And
They're going to be golfing in Florida. Alligators prowl the rivers around this course.
He's lining up the putt, and he gets some sweat in his eyes.
If only he had thigh skin transgrafted onto his forehead, that never would have happened.
Oh man,
Is that what you guys call it? Transgrafted? Anyways, that's my shag.
There we go. All right, we'll go to Scotch. We're gonna leave Nick. I mean, we're gonna just circle around this way.
I in all movies, I love a good montage, and I love the scene where they're breaking down the car and he's telling the mechanics what to do and like that whole thing, that just something about the sequence and what they're doing and it's just, I love that shit. Like, you know, especially like a movie that like where they're preparing for something, like some weird examples I thought I was like Predator, when they're setting up the forest to fight the Predator and all that stuff,
the traps and shit,
and like, or like Evil Dead 2 when, you know, he's like doing the whole the cutaways and stuff like that. So I
like
love
Home Alone.
Yeah.
Right.
When they set up all the booby traps.
Yeah.
Well,
Come on,
like,
Scott.
they end that montage. It's like he's like, "Did you use magnesium parts?" And the dude's like, "Fuck."
Well, how like dry he is, and he's like a dick, and it's like there, but he's kind of growing on him.
Totally.
'Cause he's right there doing it, and they're all leaving the garage at the same time at the start, and you see that kind of build in such a short amount of time in the montage.
Yeah. Just seeing the dynamic between him and the mechanics, especially after he says, you know, have a think and get back to me.
Yeah.
You know, on that, which is a fucking great line. And the mechanics just give little smirks in the background. They're like,
I like
"Oh,
this
yeah,
guy.
Yeah.
I love this guy. Yeah. Good call.
Good shit, Nikki.
I mean, I just got Niki Lauda really at the end of the day. I mean, because, man, what a badass.
The person or the actor?
The person.
Yeah, I
Hell
agree.
yeah.
The fucking
Hell yeah.
person. To have the balls to like pull out of that race. Like, I don't feel like you have to. And Brad, you're the pro. I don't know, but I feel like that's such a rare thing. First of all, to see, even if it was a fictional race movie, you don't see that. So for it to be like an actual true story that this dude pulled over and you know, he was the best driver in the world.
When he had the chance to win another
take
world
it,
championship,
yeah.
which was the most important shit in the world to him,
and
right?
it's like one of the most, also like, if you're gonna be like a romantic comedy type person, that's like one of the, you know, a very like
romantic gesture, bro.
big, yeah.
Oh my god,
can't
that's
believe I
way
didn't
better
think
than the
about
cue cards, dude.
I hadn't
But they
watched
don't-
Rush in a while. I can't believe I didn't think about, but nobody would have got it. But it would have been a great pick.
And they don't, you know, for Ron Howard being a softie in some movies, he didn't play that up at all because it didn't seem it wasn't like in his character.
But it's not like he got out of
damn.
the car and went over and ran over and kissed her or anything. He
Walked
just
by
kind of
and
gave
just
her a
nodded.
look. Yeah, dude,
Very
that's
German.
so gangster.
Very
Yes,
German.
exactly.
But dude, I love it. I loved everything about like his character and the real person. So if he's anything like the real person, you know, he's a badass, and you know, from what we read, way more, you know, likable than the movie played up too. So Niki Lauda.
All right. Well, my shag is just well done racing or driving scenes. I gotta say, I've said my uncle and my grandpa both are race car drivers, and I grew up around racing. I've been to numerous races in my life, and just something about the noise, the anytime you get that in-car view.
Have you been to a big time like NASCAR or
No,
F1
which is funny. I have not. I mean,
Really?
our family, we're definitely planning an F1 race at some point here that we would like to do. But as far as my brother's been to quite a few big NASCAR races, but I have not. I've done everything I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that because
It looks like an amazing party.
if you're into sprint cars, I've been to the top of the line World of Outlaws, which are the best sprint car drivers in the world. I've seen a ton of those races, but I mean, it's not well known to everybody else.
Right.
Whenever I see good racing, it gets me fired up. Like I can't think of really any other type of movie scene that gets me more pumped than a good driving or racing scene where you've got the good sound of the motor, you get that kind of in car, and you're swerving and this and that, and it's just like everything about it just gets me fired up because like I love driving. I'm a driver. I always tell people I should have been a race car driver. I think that's like what would have been in my blood if I would have started off as a race car driver. I think it would have been great.
That's the one thing about Brad is that if we're all going somewhere, Brad's like, I'll drive.
I do love to drive.
I will drive.
I mean, out of any type of scene in any type of movie, I mean, maybe aside from like what, you know, like Muppet porn or some shit like that gets me fired up. But
Dude,
You're saying Muppet porn doesn't get you fired up?
no, I'm saying that compared to racing, there's
Revs my
racing
engine.
and there's Muppet porn. It's like those are like
They're like-
equal and as far like
They're
getting me
like
riled
one
up.
A and one B.
Getting me fired up.
Got
and
you,
just
I
being
got
like,
you.
Getting me like, yeah. Adrenaline
crazy thing
going.
is it runs in the family because your brother loves to drive, and like
Yeah.
when we were touring, here we are like ending a show in Salt Lake City at fucking 2 a.m, and he's like, I'm driving, and
and you guys trusted them.
dude, absolutely. And this was back when the old phones, the Nokias and stuff like that, when you would text by hitting it like a button 3 times to get the letter C and shit like that. And he would drive. He'd have a chew spitter in one hand and his fucking phone in the other hand. He'd be driving with his knee, pulling a trailer with our van, fucking and doing this text
everything
shit.
you own in the world in the background.
and ourselves in there. And the thing is, he was amazing.
But you trusted him, yeah.
We totally trusted him because he was the driver.
That's wild.
Nate's not here tonight, but when he used to live in Michigan, and when we moved him back from Michigan, we road tripped from Detroit all the way back to California, and it was kind of the idea that we were driving his van. He had like a minivan, and we were going to just take turns. I ended up driving all 2,600 miles. I was just like, I like driving. Every time it was time to drive, I was like, put me in the wheel. The only thing, they had like the little DVD player. All I told him was, I said, you have to play DVDs that I've seen before.
Right.
So that way, like, I'm thinking about like, I can, you're watching Rounders. I'll be like, I'm right there with you. I'm not looking at the screen, but I can be like following along with you.
I figured that part of the reason why you love being the driver is because you get the aux cord. You get to play the playlist or the DVD or whatever it is, because that's another thing that's very Brad.
That I will say, usually if you're in my car and I'm driving, you're gonna
We're
be
listening to
shit
some
I wanna
jams.
listen.
Yeah, exactly.
That is true. That is true. All right, Snag, taking it home to mom. What do we got going here, folks?
I'll go. Ron Howard. He's wholesome. And we were talking about a lot. He's got a hell of a lineup from Willow to Apollo 13 to Backdraft to A Beautiful Mind. He's a badass. And like Scott also said, underrated as hell for whatever reason. Hopefully he just keeps making movies. I think he will. Like Brad also said, the zoom ins and the different shots, the racing cuts. I loved where you're right up against their eyeball and you're seeing like their eyes and you're seeing everything blow past. But I also like the zoom back slightly where you're looking at their face and you're seeing everything zoom past. Like I loved all those shots too.
And the shots where they're like, this is what they're seeing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That shit's badass.
And even the inside the engine, like, you know,
where they
the
get in
pistons
there.
and the pistons pumping when he, right after the scene when he's in with the stewardess in the cockpit in the bathroom, and then all of a sudden goes to the pistons pumping. Like Ron, you dirty dog, you. But no, because he does that in Apollo 13 with, you know, the close-ups on the equipment, you know, with something. Right.
When Tom Hanks is getting laid and the rocket takes off.
Spoiler alert, something bad happens on Apollo 13 and something breaks. But
there's an explosion.
Yeah, there's an explosion. But it's
While
same
Tom
kind
Hanks
of technique.
is having sex with somebody.
Right. With Bill Paxton.
Don't you dare get our Bill Paxton haters on
That's
that
the
site.
movie I want to see.
We don't need Bill Paxton, all his fans getting mad at us
Bill
again.
Paxton's he's a treasure.
Ang Lee directs Apollo 69.
Ron Howard, that's my pick.
Great.
Speaking of, I just want to say real quick, going back to our last pod, Zach got a little joke going about the natural parody porn.
Yeah.
And I got to say that I'd be lying if I didn't say I actually searched to see if there was an actual parody porn
That
of the
shit
natural.
was real, bro.
I didn't find it.
Oh, what?
If you're saying that it's real, I searched for it. I'm just giving you props because I searched for it.
She spends time on the lathe crafting that dildo. The vein through the top of that fucking dildo that she gets off of the tree, dude. She fucking spends time carving that.
Adding details. I love it.
Yeah, dude. There was a knot in the wood, and she made that into the balls.
Not?
I'm serious, guys.
Oh, Jesus. That's so beautiful. Okay. And she called it Wonder Boy?
Yeah. It was a drop
Hey,
3.
makes sense.
The natural.
So I guess I'll jump in with my snag off that note. So I actually had that as well with Ron Howard and the cuts and everything. But I also had I love a movie that ends with mutual respect earned. You know, it's like you got this whole story going along, and then like they hate each other, but at the end they got this moment where they just like totally respect each other.
Iceman Maverick.
Yeah, totally. So I don't know. I'm a big fan of that, and I really like that in this film.
I literally have written down the moment when the enemies find common ground and start to respect each other is like the coolest, especially in this movie. And like I said, when it turns for me is when he punches out the reporter. And even though Lauda doesn't know, Like maybe he finds out later, maybe he doesn't, but they find that common ground and mutual respect. And dude, it like you really feel something in that moment, especially when towards the end they're having that conversation in the airplane hangar, and then Lauda says something real shitty to Hunt.
Right.
And Hunt turns around and you think like, oh, he's going to get all super pissed, right? And he doesn't. And he's just like, you know what, dude, this is just how this dude is. And they fucking amicably go their own way. And they, at the end, they have the quote from the actual guys saying like, this is the only dude that I really respected and liked. And fucking, I thought that was super cool. It makes it even cooler that it's a true story because, you know, part of me goes, this is stupid. These guys would never like each other, but they really did like each other, which is what's cool about true stories sometimes.
Well, and even though that punch out wasn't something that legitimately happened, but in the movie, the reporter's like, "Oh yeah, you like that?" Like you think it's gonna be like James Hunt being like, "Oh yeah, that was fucking great."
No,
like,
he's pissed.
and then all of a sudden, boom, he just throws the fucking gauntlet
because he
down.
gets it, dude. Because
Right.
his lady left him, right?
Yeah.
Freaking Olivia Wilde in her 8 seconds of
and-
screen time.
And it's
Race car
at
drivers-
that point, it's like that's his. I mean, he just has mad respect for him too, and that was like a
We also-
worst thing you could say to somebody.
Well, and racers all support each other. It's like when somebody crashes, like I've mentioned already, the Roman Grosjean crash. Immediately on the radios from almost all the drivers, they're immediately asking, "Is Roman okay?
Is he okay? Yeah.
They're immediately wondering, like, because they saw that there was this explosion and this vicious looking crash, and they're and like that when they can tell when it's something more than just a normal wreck.
yeah.
Well, and I also think there's some guilt involved in that too, with him beating up the reporter too, because literally the scene before that was him. You know, that was the first time he saw him. You know, and he had that whole scene where it's like, I feel partly responsible. He's like, well,
'Cause he promoted
because you
the
were.
race.
He goes, yeah, you should. yeah.
Yeah. So he's feeling guilt, and then then all that other stuff too. So there's guilt and there's respect and all that shit, and then he just takes out the reporter.
That's a beautiful scene.
Great scene.
Yeah.
My snag is Daniel Bruhl.
Hell yeah.
I mean, the first time I ever saw him in Glorious Bastards, I was like, who's this guy? Okay. I mean, Christoph Waltz blew my socks off, but at the same time,
It's hard to notice anybody in Christoph Waltz's shadow in that movie.
But Daniel Bruhl does a good job. I mean, like he's got that kind of, he plays it perfect where he's this like, it's a weird situation. He's a German. He's flirting with the French woman. And I mean, they're obviously the occupiers. And the way he plays it though, he's like, we feel like there's something here, but she's of course like, no. And he's like, we should get along. Like we have good. And then he gets that whole, he gets upset. He kind of like almost at one point gets aggressive with her.
Right.
And then she blows him away, which is like a mess. And then she blows
blow each other.
He blows her away.
Right.
It's like
In Tarantino
it's like-
fashion.
Yeah, very very Tarantino-ish. But I mean, just both of their performances are amazing. Like I really dig Daniel Bruhl. Niki Lauda of the entire movie. He's like, when I saw his performance, it was just like, that's me. Like he was impressed as hell that he landed that performance like he did. And then the interesting story is that Daniel Bruhl, when he first met Niki Lauda, he's like, Niki Lauda was asking, well, what's going to be the toughest thing to play this role? And he's like, you being alive. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, the fact that people know you and they
exactly.
they converse with you. He's like, that makes him worry. He's like, if somebody's is no longer here, it's like now I can just kind of like embrace the role the way I want to. He's like, but with you being here, I have to like emulate you. So that was the
And
challenge. to him.
they spent some time before.
Yeah,
They
a
got
lot-
very close.
That's awesome.
Niki Lauda took Daniel Bruhl and his girlfriend to the to the Brazil Grand Prix. So they went to an F1 race together, and Niki Lauda actually flew him on his own jet to the race, and so they had like 12 hours to talk and hang out, and so they got to know each other, and they really got along. So, and I think that's what Daniel Bruhl took it so serious to go get like for a month, to spend a month in Austria and to like learn the dialect just perfectly. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
super cool. All right, let's unzip those body bags, folks. What do we got? Who's going first?
I got body bags over here. I got several.
Multiple? Oh shit.
So my first one is the most infuriating thing in this movie is that like you're taught. I wasn't taught like formally because I'm not from a racing family or into racing at all, but you're taught from a young age, from every racing movie or show that you've ever watched, that the pit crew is supposed to go as fast as possible, right? What the fuck are these guys doing in this movie? They're
was
the
different in the
slowest.
70s.
They're walking out. It's like he's pulling in, fucking, oh, it's super intense, blah, blah, blah. The guy's walking out, like kind of kicking the tire in front of him. I'm like, what is this guy doing? There's no sense of urgency at all. It's like my fucking 10-year-olds that I coach baseball. It's like, dude, let's have a little sense of urgency. Like, come on, dude. The ball is...
This became a thing in the 80s where pit crews really started training and actually trying to like.
So before that, it wasn't. They were like, all right, fuck it.
I mean,
guess
they
we'll
were
fix
still
this
being
shit.
active. It's just it wasn't a fast process. I mean,
It did not seem like they were in a hurry at all, and it was killing.
you didn't have the. I mean, you're not going like you're not going to use
No.
like the air compressed things and stuff. So it's like it's just not the same.
They almost had like hand wrenches out there, and they were like, yeah,
Right.
almost there, James.
That's-
Fucking, we'll get you out
and that's
there in
the
a
thing.
second.
What's crazy? What's beyond almost ballistic is the fact that you get F1 drivers pull into the pits now. If they want to do a 4-tire change, I'm just going to ask you guys
17 seconds.
to do 4-tire change.
I have no idea.
8
I have
seconds. 8 seconds.
4 tire chain. So nowadays,
4-tire change, a 4-tire change for a Formula One car in the
5
pit stop.
seconds.
No, I say 17.
I'm going to say 13.
The record for Red Bull, 1.8 seconds.
Oh my God. I thought I was low.
1.8.
It's the most fucking crazy thing you see. I think it's like
And then they're off,
1.87. They lift the car from both ends. They all immediately take off the tire at the same time, put the new tire on. That car drops and will leave. 1.89 or 1.87 seconds. I think is the record.
and
How does it go on safely?
they don't.
Fucking
And
they
James Hunt's
practice
crew,
that shit.
James Hunt's crew took 42 minutes.
So is it down to like one bolt now on those tires or something?
Oh yeah, it's just one
special
center bolt.
bolts,
It's not
yeah.
Center bolt?
NASCAR is still bzz, 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 like they have to
Right.
do like the like this one is just center nut, boom,
Jesus.
boom.
Wow.
It's I'll show you guys when we get up there. It's fucking wild.
At the risk of having 2 body bags, by
They,
other
they don't do fuel. That's the other thing. And now F1, they had too many problems where cars were catching fire and stuff just from like bad
so
fuel.
now they're electric, right? Or
No.
half
They
electric?
have fuel, but they have to fuel up as the amount of gas that they'll need for the entire race before
Oh,
the race
wow.
starts.
Oh, interesting.
So there's no fuel added at all during the
probably
race.
quite a bit of gas.
But they have to have the right certain amount because if they get to the end of the race that don't have enough, they actually have to do a fuel sample at the end. And there was a driver that got actually disqualified because he didn't have a large enough fuel left to do a sample. Sebastian
wow.
Vettel got disqualified from
Because he picked too close. Or
yeah,
he picked
they
too
did.
well
They didn't have enough fuel to get a sample
Oh my gosh.
from his car.
to check into if he was cheating.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So my other very quick body bag is Olivia Wilde leaving James Hunt at the drop of a hat. I mean, dude.
Do you know who Richard Burton was?
I mean,
Like a magician.
Come on.
okay. Did you see Hemsworth's abs, bro? Did you see his fucking dick root? I mean, are we being serious right now? He could have been a fucking door-to-door tie salesman, and that bitch would have been like, "This is my guy."
I have no clue how Richard Burton was such a super stud, but he was with all types of women.
I'm unconvinced. I'm unconvinced that anybody's leaving Chris Hemsworth for.
Well, that
Richard
shit was
Burton.
that shit's straight up legit from the movie. So.
No, I know. I believe it, but I'm saying that guy James Hunt didn't have Chris Hemsworth abs. Is all I'm saying.
All right, Scotch, what you got? What's body bagging?
So I told you guys I watched it on the big screen, and I'm going to body bag watching this on the big screen with the burns. I don't like burns and burn wounds.
Oh, so bad.
It was so bad, and I'm not being silly when I say this. I was more uncomfortable watching this than watching Hereditary.
Oh, for sure.
Like it, because it's real, and it's like,
For sure.
oh my god, just them peeling the bandages off his forehead at that one point, and just I can't handle it. And
If you like that, I got some movies for you.
I don't like it. I literally said I don't. This is body bag. I don't know if you've heard
got
this podcast before.
That got
I got
This is
some
called
good
body
ones
bag.
for you, bro. Like
No.
when they're pulling those bandages off. Oh, I've got
dude.
a movie with like a 40-minute segment of that shit.
Well, I'm not going to watch
Sounds
that.
like the worst thing.
Yeah, no.
Which is crazy when you see the burns from Niki Lauda in real life too. Like it's pretty.
They're on it.
Yeah,
Pretty
they
on
were
spot.
accurate. Yeah, yeah. No, that's my worst fear is dying by burn. You know, just ugh. So every time I see it on screen, it's just
His helmet flew off, and that's what caused the majority of the burns. Was the fact that his helmet flew off, which
okay.
It's not something that probably would happen nowadays, but
Right.
it was.
Oh yeah, that's why his head is literally burning because his helmet is off. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, pretty crazy. All right, Nick.
My body bag actually was so as many great like racing scenes as there are. The way it's shot is great. What I wish that they did, and maybe just for a couple of the bigger races in the Japan race, is to like give us a layout of the track and like give us an idea, because at no point do you know where you're at like on the track, and it's all these tight cuts and it's all really fast. But it's like, you know how good races or other racing movies, they talk about the track and like, oh, watch out for turn number like 15. Right. They kind of prep you for it. They give you a layout of the land, and you as the viewer are waiting for them to come to this like final moment or down the home stretch. And if he gets past that turn, if he gets past that part, you're like, oh damn, that was that's a little climax. And so that's just wishing I knew where we were on at least 1 to 2 of those tracks throughout the movie.
F1 circuits are not. There's nothing like the Nürburgring now, like where it's like 8 mile track or anything like that. There's Spa is like 3 something, so it's pretty big, but a lot of them are pretty small. And there's definitely the turns where it's like, this is the turn where like a lot of action happens and stuff. So that's a lot more well known nowadays.
Which the announcers, from what I understand on the F1 broadcast, do a really good job of like telling the viewer to make sure they understand like, oh, this is where the shit's
yes.
gonna go down.
At the beginning of the race, they go through the track. They talk about here's where the turns where there's going to be action. This is where a lot of the passing happens,
right,
etc. So they go into that, and it's definitely explained that there's going to be some situations on the track where that's where the action is going to happen.
So I feel like Howard could have, so instead of showing as so many of the races, I know they had to show how it was a back and forth between the two, but instead of showing one of these pit stops or a couple of the races, that they spent a little more time.
I agree, Nick. I felt like as a money-saving move, a lot of the races sort of bleed into the other, and it's kind of like, here's some really quick shots, like this is in this place.
They all could have shot all at the same racetrack.
Totally.
Yeah, definitely an oval track, like, I mean, Talladega Nights, cars or whatever. It's like you can show, it's simple to say, like, okay, he's at this spot, he's trying to catch up to him, and he just needs to pass him here. Like that's a lot on a big road course. It's a lot more difficult to show. And F1 races, I mean, especially nowadays, they get very spread out. It's like there'll be like, I mean, a lot of cars get lapped, and it's like, oh, this car's the leaders will be 12 seconds ahead of like the 4th, 5th, 6th place cars. It's like it's pretty wild.
But at the same time, even if you're live watching the race, like you've got a bunch of cars going by, maybe somebody's in 50th place and somebody's in 1st place. They're going by at the same time, right? I mean, you don't know.
Right.
Yeah, live, if you're sitting on one particular corner, it could be very difficult to kind of keep track of like exactly where people are and stuff. All right, my body bag is the title of the movie. I think Rush is a terrible movie. I mean, a terrible title for a movie. I don't think it helped at all sell it. I really think that it's a stupid title. I don't really know why they chose Rush.
I didn't think about that at all. And the minute you said that, I was like, you are 100% correct. Mm-hmm. That's a bad title.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, there had been a movie in the early 90s that came out with the name Rush. Right. It's like, what's going to get you to see this movie? It's like, it's supposed to be some adrenaline. Adrenaline pumping. Like that's not the heart of the movie. The heart of the movie is a battle between two professionals who have different point of views, and it's like, why couldn't you figure out some title that kind of relates to that rather than just?
So you think they go with something like Ford v Ferrari, which really tells you what's going on?
Yeah, where you know that there's a battle that's going on here. Rush just sounds like it's a racing movie. Rush. I'm not into that.
I think they should have called it Hunt Rhymes with Cunt.
I'm just saying racing. I feel like honestly, better title if they wanted to go with a one word R. They just said racing. If it was just called racing, it sounds like it's maybe a little bit more exciting than Rush.
What about Drive?
It's like Zach's draft list titles.
Yeah, just call it Drivers
Race Hard.
Yeah,
like Duel or something. But that's been used before.
Something,
Wheel
like
Turners.
That. Yeah.
I mean, something about life being on the line, something like where it's a little bit more like you feel like there's more stakes, but just Rush it's fucking terrible.
Right.
And they don't even make a callback in the movie where there's no like moment where James Hunt's like, it's the rush, Niki. It's the rush.
That's why we do this.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, where are they sitting around? They're just like one night, we got to get a title in.
There's also a suspicious lack of cocaine in this movie for the time period, right? I mean,
well, James Hunt did die at age 46.
Right.
Yeah.
Of a heart attack.
So he may
Heart
have seen
attack.
some cocaine in his time.
I'm assuming
yeah.
in his
Allegedly,
day,
yeah.
there was a lot of cocaine going
I mean,
on.
if Olivia Wilde was there, they were getting yacked out of their minds.
All right, folks, we're on to our streaming recommendations. I'm going to let everybody else go because I have one that I think might get picked, but if it doesn't, I'll pick it up on the back end. So who's got their streaming recommendation ready here?
I'm going to go with the Gozzles and Drive with the dope jacket and just some super cool scenes. I really love the aesthetic and the visuals that Nicholas Riffring Wingading does. And I just, it's a dope movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. HBO Max right now.
I got to watch that one. I still have not seen it, so I probably should sit down and watch that.
So the first one I have a feeling it's going to be yours, so I'm not going to say it.
No, say it because
Are you sure?
I have a backup.
You have a backup? Because I have a backup as well.
Go with your first one. I'll tell you if you need to go to your backup.
Okay. Baby Driver.
No, I'm
No?
glad you're doing that.
Dude, Baby Driver is a fantastic
It's so
movie.
good.
It's so entertaining and the amazing driving in it and the story is really good. The
Music.
The music is amazing. It's got the actress. I'm blanking on her. Lily. She's the one playing the Pam and Tommy miniseries right now on Hulu.
Lily Allen.
Lily Allen. Yeah, she's just amazing in it. And so and that actor, has he been in anything else? Baby.
He was just in West
yeah.
Side Story. Was
Okay.
He's been in
that.
some other he was in this kind of romantic movie, The Fault in Our Stars.
He's
he was
Fault in Our Stars.
he's gonna
Yeah,
be
that was-
he's gonna be household name.
Okay,
soon.
great.
He was in this
because
indie
he was
movie.
really, to me, he was totally unknown. I haven't seen him in anything else, and so it's just a great movie. Baby Driver is fantastic.
What's it stream? Is it streaming for free anywhere? Do you know?
That
I feel like I've seen that poster.
don't know.
I feel like it is
forgot
somewhere.
that part of this.
No, we're good. I got Days of Thunder, HBO Max
beautiful.
for free. Don't pay for it. Go watch for it. Go watch it on
Old
HBO.
Trickle.
Robert Duvall, Tom Cruise racing on foot.
Buddy Brotherton.
It's a foot race. It's a foot race movie. Really.
It's
It's
very much like Chariots
it's
of
a
Fire.
whole lot of build up to the race at the very end.
What if they just dropped the Chariots of Fire music in that last scene? Oh God, that would have been great. All right, well, my stream recommendation did not get taken, so I'm going to go with it, and I'll also throw my add-on. Cinderella Man, which is Ron Howard's other sports movie.
Love that
It's on HBO Max. It's the story of the bulldog of Bergen, I think is what his name is, James J. Braddock, fighting for the heavyweight title back in the 1930s. He was a legit boxer in the 1920s.
Russell Crowe, right?
Russell Crowe falls on hard times through the Depression.
Oh,
and
it's
then
rough, too.
Has his comeback, and it's a heartfelt movie. Or Paul Giamatti, badass as his manager / cornerman.
As
Renee
always.
Zellweger's.
Renee Zellweger's in it. It's a great one. Very legit. And then I want to throw on there, if you've not, we've talked about it multiple times now, Drive to Survive. Netflix. If you want to just see the dramatics behind the scenes, it's an interesting sport. There's 20 drivers, 10 teams. Each team has 2 drivers, and so they're trying to manage both their drivers.
Are they buddies, Brad?
That's the thing.
They're not, right?
Some of them become buddies. Some of them hate each other.
That's so good.
And there's, I mean, it is I will say this, it's very much a aristocratic sport. There's millionaires and billionaires who are involved in it. They're going to all sorts of exotic locations, and there's yachts. There's Christian Horner, who's the team manager for Red Bull. His wife is Jerry Halliwell, who was in Spice Girls. It's like
Babe,
it's
is she Baby Spice? No, she's the redheaded one.
she's the redheaded one. I forgot.
Ginger Spice.
She's Ginger Spice, and it's like all these folks are very much wealthy, and there's a lot of money floating around. But at the same time, when these guys get in these cars, they're putting their lives on the line, and they're all legitimate race car drivers. And at the core of it is some amazing driving, and these guys are the best drivers in the world. Like I grew up in a NASCAR family, and I always used to be Formula One, blah 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 blah. But when you see what they do at the speeds they do, and what they're capable of, it's amazing.
The road course is just personally knowing nothing about anything is so much more impressive to me than the ovals. Maybe I'm wrong.
And no, yeah, 100%, because they're shifting now. I will say this: the one thing I really love about Rush that it shows back in the day is the fact that they used to have manual transmissions.
Oh yeah.
And that
Do they not now?
Oh no, it's all paddle.
Yeah.
Oh, paddle shift. Okay,
Yeah,
that's the same thing though.
But no clutch though. I mean, it's just auto. I mean, so it's like, but the fact that when he's got the knob came off and he's got that he's
his
grinding
like
his hand,
bleeding.
it's just bleeding out of it. Like that shit. Like that's back in the day. Those guys were earning their money because like I mean, when you had to be the clutch shift and you're in all those turns and you have to remember what gear you're in. Now it's just like it's on the screen right there. It's like I mean I'm 6 5 4 3 2. Like okay, now I'm into like finding your gear and stuff. That was an issue back in the day.
So a big thing too is you get this scene of Hunt laying on his back, like going through the turns, like he's in fucking Cool Runnings or something, right? And then what gets me is that now they have all these cool simulators. Yeah,
100%.
dude, and they're just sitting there and they can run those races 100 times before they actually get in the car, and it's like pretty close to what they're actually going to do, right?
So I've gotten into iRacing, which is
Yeah.
it's been around for I think 12 years or so, and they've just basically taken real racing. It's not the video game Gran Turismo or like Forza or any of these like games that are like they're amazing and they got great graphics, but iRacing is like we're just trying to simulate
It's about the physics.
and it's about the fact that you have to pay a subscription to be a part of it. And when you race, you have a license. And if you don't get to go in the more competitive races unless you can prove that you can actually compete.
Oh wow.
And so it's very
Do you have a rig? Have you done any of it?
yeah, I've got a curved monitor. I've got my steering wheel. I'm not quite the lowest budget, but I'm like pretty low to the low budget. But there's folks that spend 10 grand.
Oh, I've seen the ones where the guys are sitting in the thing with the huge screen and they have the actual thing that moves, like when the car swerves.
No,
and
you
stuff.
you can spend $10,000,
It's so
$20,000
wild.
on a good rig nowadays for iRacing. But it's legit. And there's pro series. There's series that people are making money off of. They have sprint cars. They have all different types of racing. NASCAR, F1, like Indy. It's basically like any type of racing you can think of. They have it, and it's pretty bad.
So how far are we from the guy that's the baddest simulator racer to where like when the Ferrari guy retires, they're like, let's get the #1 simulator racer.
There's a few that have started.
Have
to
they crossed
transfer.
over?
It's getting to that point, but there's definitely a difference between if my car wrecks in this race and
die.
I hit reset and I'm in the garage
Yeah,
versus
totally.
oh yeah, I'm hitting a wall at 180 miles an hour and it's all bad. So I mean, there's definitely that difference, but there's a lot of drivers now. In NASCAR, for example, Christopher Bell, he's a big iRacing guy, and like he's William. God, I can't remember his name right now, but
It doesn't matter. We've never heard of any.
there's a few guys that are in NASCAR that they've done a lot of competitive online racing. So there's
That's awesome.
it's legit. It's legit. All right. Reshelf. Alternate endings. Reshelving. This is when we go to Bev's Video Kingdom. We take a movie that was one type of movie. We put it on a different shelf and say, we're turning this sports movie into a horror movie, or we're just going to give it an alternate ending. What are you guys feeling here today? Anybody got something for me?
So my main one is that we turn it into like a fantasy epic, right? So Lauda at some point, like they kind of become buddies, like just like in the show, just like in the movie, they kind of become buddies. Lauda takes one into the wall, a la Earnhardt Sr., which reminds me of a good story. But anyways, we'll move on. Lauda takes
Earnhardt Sr. reminds you of a good story.
Lauda takes
Topical.
Lauda takes one into the wall. The story I was going to tell is that basically we used to play cards. We used to play cards with your uncle
Right.
all the time, and all those guys are all huge NASCAR guys. I think the game even came out of like a fantasy NASCAR league or something like that. My dad, who has never watched NASCAR in his life, sits down with all the guys, and there's a guy wearing a hat with a number 3 on it. And my dad, like 2 hours into the tournament, looks at the guy and goes, "What's the 3 on your hat?" And the guy goes, every person at the table's like, "What the fuck?" And my dad's like, "What?" And he's like, He's like, that's Earnhardt's number. And my dad's like, Earn who? Who are we talking about? No fucking clue who he is or who he's talking about.
Okay, in that situation, that is very funny.
Isn't that hilarious?
That is very
like
funny.
Joe and all those guys just looking at him like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah, no, Joe was the one who used to wear the hat.
Exactly. So anyways,
It's like when the jazz comes on and Ricky Bobby.
Everybody's head turns. What the fuck?
So anyways, they become kind of buddies. Lauda dies, right? He goes into the wall, he dies, and then a la Star Wars, we've got Hunt driving through, and we've got Lauda coming in, and he's like, use the Force, James. You know what I mean? With his Austrian accent, and he's like coming through, and he's like going through all the turns, and Lauda's like, showing up in the background in like a kind of see-through, like a Jedi robe.
Can I throw an add-on to yours?
Yeah, no, I love it.
I
It was
would
very
say,
underconceived.
What if James Hunt is like fucking a chick like on like and then Niki Lauda comes in and is like, James, shouldn't you be practicing? Yeah. Shouldn't you be thinking about the race?
James.
Are you using magnesium condoms?
James, put it into a lower gear. She will come quicker. Yeah, exactly, dude. This is exactly what we're talking about.
Don't let those magnesium condoms catch on fire. They're extremely flammable.
Super hot. Super high heat.
You can't keep that high pace.
Slower friction. No friction.
Oh, shit.
Only a 20% risk, James. Do not fuck that whore. Look at her. She has much higher than 20% risk.
Oh boy, it's tough to follow that because at least my mind's not. I'm not going for the comedy route.
But hey, that combines all things Brad Franca, which is racing and Star Wars.
I do, and comedy.
There's just no Muppets.
Silly comedy.
And it's Pixar.
It's a cartoon. Jim Henson makes a fucking special appearance.
All right, my alternate ending is just, it's not really even an alternate ending. It's just the fact that the last season of F1 in just 2021, it had dramatics and a title chase that actually makes this movie look not that even interesting. Like the Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, these are guys that I think legitimately hate each other. And so they don't have to fake it. Like when this movie comes out, it's going to be like, these motherfuckers did not like each other. It was the champ who's just an ultimate consummate professional versus the young kid that's just wild and a little bit more rash.
Max Verstappen is a young kid.
Max Verstappen is the young kid and has shown that he can do things, but he's also a little bit more wild. And these two clashed all year long, and it was a fucking awesome. Like you didn't know who was going to win, because you got to understand in F1 the previous like 6 years, it was basically you've got Lewis Hamilton running away from everybody else
And everybody else, yeah.
and it was all the everybody else. So it was basically like there was no real drama, and then this last season created drama, and it was
Verstappen won, you said?
Verstappen won in the last
Controversially?
race. Controversially, with the judge's decision to restart a race in a weird way, and it gave basically Max Verstappen on better tires the chance to on the last lap pass Lewis Hamilton to win the championship. It was whoever won was going to win the championship.
Dude, no wonder people are talking about this like it's the best sport ever.
Fucking crazy dramatics, and it was wild. And my wife didn't want to talk to me for a few days because I'm not a Lewis Hamilton hater. I respect him as one of the best drivers in the history of the world, but she's like a stan. And
she loves that Lewis Hamilton.
And the fact that I wasn't rooting for him, she was upset for a while.
To be fair, most women feel the same way about Lewis Hamilton. It's not just your wife.
He's an attractive, amazing guy. It's what he's doing. And he can drive the shit out of a car, and he's done that for numerous years. So yeah, that would be my alternate ending. It's just I can't wait until they actually make a movie of this, because it was dramatic as fuck.
Is it going to be one of those true life movies where you're like, this is unrealistic?
Well, that's the thing, is like they don't really need to do that, because I mean there's the drama of one of the drivers almost getting killed, like there's the drama of some crazy decisions, there's some they wreck on multiple occasions into each other.
Oh wow.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was wild. It was crazy.
All right. So you don't like the title Rush? I got a horror movie. It's called Final Destination. I got a name. The Italian dudes in that scene, That's just one example in that scene. Both
They're for
Italian
sure
dudes,
gonna die.
They do not make it. They get hereditary, both of them. Double beheading.
They're looking at he just
Lauda
He goes through a
swerves
really
twice.
narrow thing
He
with
goes through a vineyard, and they both get beheaded.
a covered bridge.
Yeah. So just they
get
both
hereditary.
they both don't make it. And then I don't know if anybody else has any other dudes. I didn't come up with anything else other than both Italian dudes get Final Destination.
We need more. We need more. I think like in the F1, like the lower races and stuff, like maybe he comes like sliding in and just takes out his like the who was like the rich dude that was kind of his benefactor like for a while. Like that guy's
guy.
gonna get killed.
Oh,
at some
holding
point.
like the chalice, walking around
There
with like the champagne chalice.
There was one point where they were racing in the rain, and there's a guy laying on the grass,
Taking
like a
photos.
foot off,
Yeah.
like a foot off the track, taking
so,
pictures.
like,
And I'm like,
crowd
bro, he was
people-
just on the grass
Yeah.
like 2 seconds ago.
That's another thing that in those days where fans were killed on numerous occasions.
They had to be, right?
And that's why there's so many safety precautions now as far as like the way they do that. Like, I mean, they used to do just like they would do cautionary yellows in just like one section of the course where like, oh, you got to slow down at this part, but because there's like a wreck here, but otherwise you can just drive fast. And like, no, they've changed all their safety standards.
Don't worry, we've got a hay bale in between you and death.
Yeah. So there's no photographers near the track like that anymore. That is not even close to what's going on.
Maybe Hunt's allergic to bees, and when they screw the holes in like the face shield in the last
jumps in
one,
there.
a bee.
And then Olivia
Done.
Wilde at the end's like, "Where's his glasses?
You know he's allergic to bees, right?
Oh no.
He got my girled.
Well, in honor of Nate, I know Scotch didn't come up, but we got in honor of Nate. We always got to say, Rush Till Dawn.
Oh,
Rush Till
it's
Dawn.
easy. Loud is the vampire, right? Because he has to be a German vampire. So
He's Austrian, but
he's
yeah,
Austrian. It's the same
vampire.
thing. He comes in. He's just like flashing his fangs all over the place.
He comes out of the fire and he's just like emerges from it unscathed.
And
they're like,
little
oh,
does he
fuck.
know that Hunt also starred in the porno version of The Natural. And so he fucking sharpens up that chick's veiny dildo and just fucking stabs him at the end of the movie. I think that works.
For the win, for the championship.
All right. I'm glad we agree.
I'm glad you decided to bring the natural form. How many episodes this goes?
You brought it up, Brad.
I did. So we're going to see how many
He turns
episodes this
to
goes. That's
Olivia
two.
Wilde and pick me a winner.
I'm just saying,
Pick me a winner, Olivia.
if anybody's keeping a tracker
Give me
right
a
now
switch.
and they want to give the social media tracker of how many times the natural porn version has been mentioned, it's two in a row.
You know what? If there's anything about BVK podcast, I know that if we put it out into the universe enough, it will really happen. So this is a porno that is going to be made at some point. Whether you have to star in it, Brad, or not, we haven't decided yet.
Oh my Lord. All right. Well, we are venturing off into a draft on Thursday, and it's going to be, speaking of racing, doesn't even have to be racers. We're looking for the best drivers in motion pictures. So all your best drivers, the people who have taken the wheel to get away from the cops, to race somebody, to
Turn left.
turn left, to drive Miss Daisy, whatever they got to do.
I'll
We're looking
tell
for
you guys
those
right
most
now.
memorable drivers.
You guys tell me what you think my chances are. My one of one is the guy that drove Titanic.
That's slaloming.
Or either that or Senka from fucking Cool Runnings.
Well, being that this is good, this is going to be my first draft. I like my chances hearing that kind of shit. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, Scotch Beck is licking his chops right now.
You
He's
better
like,
get ready,
okay,
Scott.
Okay, that's
This is gonna be a
one
rude
down.
awakening
One
for you.
down.
Zach plays for
Here we
keeps.
go.
You think this shit's easy, Scott? You're gonna have a rude awakening.
All right, we'll see you Thursday. Best drivers in racing. Best drivers in film. And this has been the BVK podcast. Have a great day, folks.
Bye, Nate. Bye-bye.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies, just a blind by, no reason why. I love this scene. Nick Nate's I can brag, your favorite podcast. Let's start this